welcome back to the channel. This is one of the first videos I've done for a while because of the Christmas break. I hope you all had a great Christmas or holidays, whatever you want to call it, and Happy New Year to you all. As you know, if you've been following the channel, Machine Shop has the block, and so that's kind of in a holding pattern until I get that back, and once I get that, the specs to what that will clean up to. As I say, I sent them one of the pistons from the 6.3 and the connecting rod just so they could see the makeup, and they said they were very glad that I sent them because they couldn't believe the size of these connecting rods. They were convinced it was out of a diesel motor, but I told them what it was, a 6.3 gas engine. And I'm glad I sent it because they wanted to make sure that the new pistons had correct clearance, you know, for the skirts and all that good stuff. But anyway, they're getting scanned, and then I can decide, I can call in whatever size is needed or required from the machine shop, and then we can go from there. So if anyone's interested in getting 6.3 pistons made or any other Mercedes pistons made, I'd be glad to send on the information. It's Marley Pistons, custom piston service in North Carolina, I think. Very helpful guys, and not as expensive as you think. So now that the engine's kind of in a holding pattern for the moment, I could busy myself with the cylinder heads, but it's miserable rainy outside and I fancy diving back into some body work. So let me show you what I've got going on the rear rocker panel and jacking point, and I'll show you the method in my madness. Alright, okay, let's have a look. Over here on the rear passenger rocker panel here, you can see I've got right stuck in, and I thought I'd better shoot some video for people that are following all this stuff. Now I replaced, I cut all this away to sort of see what's going on here. I replaced this section here with good metal, scrap pieces around here somewhere, and then what I'm doing is I'm building back into the jacking point here. Let me show you the jacking. This is a new jacking point that needs welding in under here, and the original one had rotted so badly that the jacking point had twisted and was pushing its way out of the bottom of the rocker. So if you're ever looking at one of these cars and you see a kind of a bump on the bottom of the rocker there, it's a good indication that the jacking point has given way and someone's jacked it and it's pressing down on this inner rocker and distorting it. Because you can see that shouldn't happen, because that's an angle where it wouldn't interrupt the bottom of the rocker. So that's one thing. Also, I did notice note on the group that you can see there's a gap in between this framework of jacking point. Now that center gap there, right in the middle there, could be accessed through a plug hole just under the seat here. There's a little rubber grommet. I've taken mine out. But for those of you guys that want to keep up on the maintenance, preventative stuff, you could inject some frame coating or some wax oil, cavity coating, whatever, into that chamber to try and help prevent this rust prone area. These holes here are the broken spots that were holding the top of the rocker in. Okay, so that's a little tip here. Also there's a bung here as well. You can see that guy. That will help you access this back chamber to inject some frame coating in this area. So let me show you what I've got planned. So starting from the back, I've got all the wheel well panel kind of clamped into place, okay, and so that will give me an idea of the location of this inner fender repair that I've got to make. Obviously I've cut this fender out so I can access this, and then I've got to fabricate all this inner fender here all the way down, and then I can cut in. I'll probably go in under that trim line and then dive down to save the large majority of that, because all that metal where it's joined the rest of the car is in good shape, and I don't see it necessary to start interfering that, opening up a bigger can of worms. So I'm trying to save as much of the original as possible. Then once this is all locked in to the inner fender, okay, I won't go filling this in yet until I've got all this attended to. So I've started here It was a devil of a job getting rid of that jacking point yesterday. What I ended up doing, instead of trying to drill them out, because it's really difficult to get a drill in there, if not impossible. It's okay shooting up, but this way it was very difficult, is that I used my trusty little needle finger belt sander, and essentially, let me show you here, essentially sand these, concentrating on this plate here until it becomes so thin it just crumbles away. And then what you're doing, you're controlling, so you're not damaging the parent metal here that you want to keep. So you're just grinding this away. You go through a few belts, but aggressive belts tear through this like you wouldn't believe. So that's a controlled way of breaking it free, and so that will get welded back in. But before I do that, I want to replace the floor of this rocker. Now if you can see, this got bent up, and so I'm drilling out all the spot welds of this rocker up to probably about here to enable me to bend this down, but that will give me access to this inner rocker. I've got a couple of rust areas on the underside of this inner rocker here and here. I can just replace that whole section from here all the way up to here with one great big piece, rather than, you know, little patches here and there. So once I get that tacked in, okay, then I will put my jacking point back in there, and then rebuild this section that was all rotted away. I made up a little patch here that I've still got to form it around and mess around, but that will go up here like so. Now I didn't show this in this video. I'm going to back off showing a lot of the welding stuff. I'm really just talking about my approach, because there's tons of videos about welding and it gets a bit yawny. So if you really want me to do it, I'll do it. But anyway, I thought this video I'll just give you an overview. So that goes like that. Okay, now I'm not going to put this on yet, because that would restrict my access to spot welding the jacking point back in. Thing is, with something like this, you've got to really kind of plan your attack, you know, because you don't want to weld something in or put something in that then is in your way to weld something else in. So that's why clamping things in place, using those little Klinko clips as well that I got for Christmas, lucky me, I'm going to make use of those, so it mounts things in their place, so then it can guide you to the next place, you know. So you can see, so in a rocker here, okay, I had to cut back this triangular piece to access cutting out this, right? So once all this inner rocker is replaced all the way up, that, for reference, is the 4-inch extension patch for a SEL model, believe it or not. See that? That's the long body version, and the 108 standard doesn't have that. So they just put a patch in there and seam sealed it, see? So anyway, so then this plate goes over the top of the inner rocker and finish it off, and then spot welding underneath. That's pretty straightforward. And yeah, I'm cleaning all this area up. I'll give this a zinc primer, cavity wax, you know, frame coating, whatever. But I'll be doing that all towards the end before the major painting process starts. What else have I been up to here? My frame has been very handy, my rolling frame, because I was able to jack this up and set the frame literally on axle stands that I can raise and lower to give me tons of access, tons of height here. But what else have I noticed? This patch, I've got now it's up nice and high. I can access this bodgy weld job that someone had done. That was my patch that I put in there some months ago. Probably a little bit of a shrink back there. See, it's kind of caved in a little bit here due to the heat from the welder, but I'm not as concerned about that on the underside of the car, because this is obviously going to get an undercoating and will disguise any deviation like that. I'm not going to get too bogged down, as long as that's all 16 gauge steel now and it's solid as a rock. I've rebuilt it underneath, so this is coming out really nice. I'll work my way up here, and then this whole section is done. And then what, I've got a couple of little pieces at the front I've got to finish up. Then I'm going to spin the car to do the monster welding repair that I've got on the other side. I won't show you that today, but it is a doozy, and that's going to take some careful planning and any input you guys can give me, I'd really appreciate it. As far as tools, I always go back to this guy. It's not a great one, and also I prefer to get an electric one because I'm sick and tired of the compressor keep kicking on and off. It's a bit of a pain, but these are wonderful little things to get in to tight areas, and also a controlled way of breaking spot welds. This is a really handy tool. Sandpaper for it, 3M, good quality sandpaper, not particularly expensive, so really good tool. Also another thing I picked up, where is it in this mess here? There we go. This is a spot weld breaker. Okay, it's got a leading edge here that you can then bash on this side, so essentially going along like that, and then a front leading edge to break in. So what I do, I end up sanding up. Let me put my light on. What I end up doing, run a sander down here, and that really reveals where all the spot welds are. I drill them right through. I go right the way through because I'm, like I say, replacing this inner rocker, and then I will hammer and dolly these all straight again and make any repairs that, because this is a messy job, don't get me wrong. You can really, if you don't care if you really tear it up like this, but it's an ugly, difficult job. Probably to be honest with you, some of the toughest part of the work is digging the old metal out and getting access. Making up patches and welding stuff in is kind of the fun part of it. It's actually gaining access and making sure you're not screwing anything up behind or making work for yourself. But really breaking these spot welds is really brutal work. But put the kettle on, have a cup of tea, put the music on, and get to it, and just work in a small section at a time. I had a little tear out here which I can repair, but anyway, so that is what we've been up to as far as the welding front. I'm going to keep this video relatively short, and in the next video I'm going to talk about the oil pump problem that I had for the 6.3 and my quest for a new one, and then we're going to talk about this guy, the SL, which I'm getting ready for sale and doing various things, but I don't want to get pulled into talking about that right now. I wanted to talk about the 6.3 and the progress on this guy. So again, Happy New Year to everybody, and I will see you in the next one. This year hopefully we'll get some big progress done. This project's a huge project, as I'm sure a lot of you know, but I'm not in any big rush. I'm enjoying doing it and enjoying the process, and that's the main thing, is to enjoy it, stay patient, and just chip away at it. And when you look at the progress we've made so far, it's been pretty good, even though it looks like hell at the moment. Alright, take care guys, appreciate it, and I'll see you next one. Bye bye.